So let's get into introducing our speakers for today's event. First, I'm thrilled to introduce Sensi Graves. Sensi is a professional kiteboarder, confidence expert, and empowerment speaker. She's also the founder of Sensi Graves Swim, a sustainable swimwear line for active women. She helps people feel like they're enough now by sharing the story of becoming a pro kiteboarder and starting a business before she believed that she could. When not traveling for photo shoots or speaking gigs, Cincy runs women's kiteboarding retreats and camps and mentors on confidence and business. Hey, Cincy.
Good morning, Brittany and everyone here. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. So great to have you. And next we have Kevin Chung. Kevin is the marketing principal at FedEx, supporting e-commerce strategy and go-to-market execution. He has strategic expertise in e-commerce and online retailing, including multi-channel marketing communications. Kevin has proven experience working with customers on website development, online engagement, channel management, and marketing technology implementation. He is also tasked with evaluating emerging e-commerce technologies, marketplace trends, the impact of AI on e-commerce, and providing thought leadership content to FedEx customers. Great to have you here, Kevin.
Thanks, Brittany. Hi, Sensi. Thanks you, everyone. Looking forward to today's webinar.
Wonderful. Okay, we've got the speakers, we've got the topics. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, Sensi, I want to start with you. There are so many different peaks for different businesses. How do you identify the peak sales times for your specific business?
It's a super important question, especially as a seasonal business. I don't know who all here has a seasonal business, but obviously swimwear, we do not sell the same amounts year round. Holidays make a difference. Summer makes a difference. It's really important to forecasting for the season to be able to know what our peaks are going to be and when to actually offer discounts. We've been in business for 13 years. And so our number one tool is looking at historical data, looking at the previous season and identifying where are the big peaks and valleys. But there's a really great tool for new companies and even companies such as myself that have been in business for a while, which is Google Keyword Planner. That allows you to actually search in Google the keywords that people would use to search for your business and identify the peaks and valleys throughout the year based on search volume. And so when I was first launching my company, we use that tool to really look at when are people buying swimwear. And it was actually a little bit earlier than we had predicted. The first 2 quarters of the year are our peak season. Obviously, holiday and Black Friday, we sell things as well. But it was a little bit different than what I had originally expected. So the number one thing I want to say is looking at what is the search volume in Google using Google Keyword Planner or a similar tool, making a list of all the keywords that people would search for your business and really thinking about big keywords, but also long tail keywords, meaning things with multiple words to them so that you can really niche down for your market. So for us, it is sustainable active swimwear. So we're not trying to compete on a full swimwear level. We're really niching down and trying to speak to our specific customer and looking at when are they buying for vacation, for going on retreat or holiday, and especially in the summer. So those are my two things, historical data and then Google Keyword Planner.
I love that. That seems like such a useful tool too, to give you insight to when people are actually starting to search for you. And I'm sure that helps you plan for the year ahead. Very, very cool. Okay, so Kevin, my next question is for you. What data sources and tools can small businesses use to predict their peak sales periods?
Well, similar to what Sensi was talking about, the historical data is probably the most important. So first-party data that you have available to you. So that would be your past sales, that would be your customer information that you have available. You can find that information. You use a web platform, you can gather that information off of that. But gathering this information year over year is going to be critical for you to build that predictive model. You can also use tools such as Google Analytics to understand your search and web traffic. And if you use email tools, certainly there's email information available. What you want to do is layer all this information together. You can do it in a spreadsheet. You can use AI tools that are readily available today, and you can go ahead and build out your predictive model. Now, one of the things that I always recommend customers take a look at is what also is happening current day or planning for your peak period. So as an example, for this holiday, we're looking at less sales days between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So that factor is important when you're predicting and forecasting your peak season, if it is during the holiday, because you're going to have less sales days available. The other thing to consider are other trends that are occurring or other events occurring. So this year, we're going to have an election. That will have an impact on that holiday period. So it's really taking that historical data and then layering other data into your model and then coming out with your forecast for the year.
Ooh, I like that. So it's getting your kind of initial source data, your sales and whatnot, and then looking at the other impacts. I would have never thought about the shorter amount of sales time between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but that makes sense. It's less time for people to shop. Okay, so Kevin, what common mistakes should small businesses avoid when preparing for their peak sales periods?
So this may not sound like a mistake, but it's something that I find is not necessarily considered enough, and that is year-round planning for your peak season, which is really could be your Super Bowl of sales, right? So, and I'll use the holiday period as an example. So right after the holidays, Christmas, January, is when you need to start looking at what occurred. You need to start analyzing what performed well, what your competitors did, what kind of performance you had related to sales, and then take a look at things that you might want to do to improve for the next peak season. So as an example of why it's important to plan year round, if you had issues with your website, as an example, and you needed to look at a new technology, a new platform, it's not going to be something that you can just do in a week or so. You have to do your research. You have to understand what it's going to take to re-platform. If you're looking at a new email provider, you're going to have to take some time into that. Also, from an inventory perspective, you may understand that some inventory issues occurred. How do you plan so that you don't have inventory issues in the next year? When we had COVID issues, supply chains were disrupted. So you actually had to order well in advance in some cases, and you needed to plan that right away. So really, it's about planning ahead. And then one last thing I'm going to mention is contingency planning. So you can never predict what's going to happen during your peak season. Something always happens. Weather issues might happen. There could be other disruptions. If you can take a look at your business, what occurred in previous years, and have some contingency plans in place, that's something that some small businesses tend to overlook when they're planning, and what I consider a mistake, but something that you can use to have a successful peak season, whenever your peak season is.
Yes, absolutely. So giving yourself that runway to kind of adjust and having those contingency plans. Sensi, my next question is for you. What are some effective marketing strategies that small businesses can use to compete with bigger corporations during these major holiday sales?
I love this question because we are small businesses and you have an opportunity to both get creative and really create a connection with your customer. I have three main things that I like to share here. Number one, and I'll go in depth after I say them. Number one is authentic storytelling. Number two is collaborations. And number three is partnerships and influencers. Authentic storytelling. My swimwear company is called Sensi Graves Swim. And I won't get too much into the backstory of that, but basically that means I'm the face of the brand. It's named after me. Initially, I was like, no, I don't want to be the face of the brand. I don't want to have all that pressure. But as we've been in business for a long time, and as I've gotten more comfortable on camera and talking to the customer, it's really given us a super unique opportunity to get close with the customer. We are really transparent with everything we share. This year we had a launch. New products dropped. This has never happened before. We literally had no sales on our launch day. Normally we have multi-thousand-dollar days. And for some reason we had absolutely zero sales. And we went on social media and we talked about that. And we said, we're not sure what's happening. No one bought anything. That's something we need to look at. Or it wasn't zero sales, but it was like so little that we were just like, we had zero sales basically for our charts. But that authentic communication with our customer and just being totally transparent with everything we do as far as production, as far as sales, the marketing, my story behind the business really creates a unique customer conversation, and people really can identify with the brand. And so as small businesses, I really emphasize and talk about the importance of how going behind the brand and really sharing what's going on in your heart and showing your face as the founder, whether or not the company is named after you, is really powerful. And that's something the big corporations really cannot do. So that's number one. Number two is collaboration posts. So doing small brand to brand collab posting, not necessarily giveaways, but giveaways are really powerful. But finding other brands that are in your same funnel, your same market, and doing little promotions where you each show off your product. So carousel posts where you do collaboration on Instagram, like each of the collaborators, can be a really good tool to expose yourself to new audiences. And people want to buy from the smaller brands. And so really sharing and empowering other small brands and coming together as collaborators is super powerful. And then finally, it's influencer partnerships and doing giveaways. So finding, once again, people that are in your niche and that you really feel a connection with. It's all about that connection and finding influencers that really back your brand. I'm lucky enough that I get to be on both sides of it, as a brand and as a quote influencer. And so for me, I only work with brands that I am really drawn to and feel a real connection with. And that makes that partnership something that's really powerful. And I really want to talk about the product. I also want to go into expand on what Kevin said about actually planning for the year. We take a full look at our year and outline the entire year based on what's happening. And as Kevin mentioned, looking at, are there Olympics happening this year? Is it an election year? What's going to affect our sales cycles? And then we break it down into quarters and finally into months. And then we go back through and put in, when are we doing a product launch? When are we doing a sale? When are we doing a contest? When are we doing a promotion? And we actually outline everything. This can seem overwhelming, but at the very least, do a high level. These are our sales that we're doing for the year. These are our product launches. And then each quarter, sit down and plan for the next 3 months. At the very least, do 1 month ahead of time. And I'd like to go a little bit more in depth in the later questions around how actually you can do that. But it's really important to have clear communication strategies for each of those time periods.
Yeah. Oh,
that was a lot of info. That was a loaded question.
I know. It's a heavy question. I love, though, the breakdown of the authenticity, like being able to share your story, and the collaborations and influencer side, and how you have that unique perspective on doing both. So once you start to build your community, and I'm sure people follow you then for both your recommendations and your own products, which is a very unique opportunity for small businesses to have. So true. Okay, so Kevin, how can small businesses leverage social media to boost their sales during peak sales times?
Well, I'm sure everyone knows how important social media is, especially nowadays. What we recommend is ramping up your social media with content that will attract and this is the word I love to use, inspire these customers to purchase or to connect to your brand, similar to what Sensi was saying. You need to have content available, ready to post. And again, it's a lot about preparation. So you need to be prepared, especially if you know when your peak season is, to have that content ready to go. Now, that could be any type of content that sort of resonates with your customer base or with the types of individuals you're trying to attract to your brand. But having that available is terrific. You can also do informal posts throughout the course of that peak season to inspire them to purchase. Because a lot of times consumers, especially during the holidays, they're looking for things to buy as gifts or get inspired to purchase. And so that's why that word inspire is so important to me. As far as social channels, one of the things, or many businesses, excuse me, they connect to and they rely on certain social channels. But one recommendation is to start to explore other social channels. So you may rely on Instagram and Facebook as your go-to social channels, but that doesn't mean that there's not untapped opportunities with different channels such as TikTok. I know a lot of businesses are hesitant to get too many social channels in their fold, but the more you can experiment and try different types of social channels during peak season, you'll be able to learn and determine if those are the areas for you to be more active in. And then one comment on how you can sort of boost your sales during peak. I know Sensi talked about being an influencer, and there are influencers out there. One of the things that are overlooked sometimes is the family dynamic of influencers within the household. So let's say your target audience are the parents or the individuals that typically you're looking to make the purchases. Don't forget that there's Gen Z and also Gen Alpha on social media in those households, and they actually influence household purchases. So there's different ways that you can look at who is involved and who can help generate those sales.
That's such a cool concept that I never would have thought about, the different audiences you might be speaking to in the family. That is really cool. Okay, so Kevin, my next question is, what are the best practices for communicating with customers during those peak sales periods?
So during peak season, I know I talk a lot about holiday because a lot of the FedEx customers that I speak to, that is one of the biggest times of the year. It's really about early communication, communicating early. There's something called seasonal creep that's been occurring during the holidays. So we're starting to shop earlier and earlier in the year, and nowadays with all the different types of opportunities, it's sometimes a year-round event. So early communication is very important to reach the customers. The other reason is because during the core peak season, you tend to find a lot of noise. A lot of companies, large retailers, large brands, there's a lot of messaging going out there, a lot of promotional messaging. So you want to be able to try to cut through that noise, if you will, to reach your customers. And one of the ways to do that is by contacting them earlier. The other suggestion is to make sure you know their communication channel preference. So if they like email, if they like text, make sure you have those captured and use those channels, because those are the ones that are going to be more they're going to be more receptive to. A couple other thoughts from a communication perspective. Consider every touch point as an opportunity. So after the purchase is made, you still have a number of different touch points where you can communicate positively during the peak season. So it's not just the unboxing part, but it's the shipping notification, it's the order confirmation, it's the customer satisfaction email, it's the follow-up message to make sure they're fine, it's the return. So remember that there's a lot of different communication opportunity touch points that you can take advantage of during that peak season.
Yes, I love that. The different areas and finding out the ways they like to be communicated, and early and often. I love it. Okay, so Sensi, what are some of the advantages and challenges, of which I'm sure there are many, you've experienced using e-commerce platforms during these peak sales times?
As Kevin said, it can be really hard to cut through the noise. That's one of the biggest challenges. There's so much noise on the internet. This is a little bit off of the peak sales time, but it can be hard for small businesses as solopreneurs and founders of companies to put themselves out there and to speak to the camera directly and say, hey, this is me, this is my brand, buy from me. That actually is a big challenge when you're trying to put your brand online. It can feel really intimidating, and a lot of it is around the confidence in yourself and the confidence in your brand. So it took me a really long time to actually say, hey, look at me, I've got something cool to offer, and not in an egocentric way, but in a way that this is something that I'm making to help you as a woman that needs an active bathing suit. So that was, for me, one of the biggest challenges, not related to peak sales, but just kind of sales and marketing in general, having the confidence to put me and my brand out there. The huge advantages are that you can leverage customer data. As Kevin has pointed out, there's so many tools and so much data that you can look at and touch your customers at many different touch points. We utilize a lot of retargeting. So anyone that comes to our website, we have ads that are retargeting going on constantly so that they see us all across the internet. You can also really communicate your USP or unique selling proposition on e-commerce because you can find the people that are actually looking for your product and speak directly to them. This allows you to not only find your niche. Once again, we're trying to take this big swath of people that are buying products and connect with the people that really want to hear from you, but it makes you able to focus on the one thing that differentiates you. So I would encourage everyone here to find what is the one thing that differentiates you? What is it that you really want to communicate with your customer that helps you stand out from the crowd? Because big challenge, it's crowded. I also think that it can be really hard to compete with the big guys. And I like what Kevin said about touching the customer early. We honestly don't do very many ads during the holidays. We have a very small budget for ads comparatively. And a lot of times it's just not worth it because everyone is pumping money into AdWords and Facebook and Instagram ads and Pinterest and TikTok and all of the platforms. And so we actually kind of take a step back and focus a little bit more on the, yes, retargeting ads and some promotions, but how can we actually communicate our unique selling proposition, put ourselves out there with our customer, and really have a authentic connection with them. The last thing I want to say is an advantage is strong imagery. On the internet, you can really show your product. And this is both an opportunity and a challenge. If you don't have strong imagery, you're really losing out. And so you really want to focus on clear, great, powerful imagery with strong call to actions that people are like, wow, look at that. Okay, awesome bathing suit. I want to go buy it. So that's an opportunity. One more thing I want to talk about on the marketing side is going back to the marketing strategies. I like what Kevin said, was just try a bunch of different platforms to see what works for you. But I would also say that you want to work on creating your content and focusing on a few platforms that you know you can capitalize on without having to go really large swath, and creating content that's cohesive across all of them. For instance, when we're planning our content, we have an email that's scheduled to go out, a blog post perhaps that's connected to that, so that when they click the email, they come back to our website. We're always driving traffic to the website from our emails. And then we connect social media posts that promote those blog posts and that email. So everything looks really cohesive. So I think that's an opportunity there as well. You can really create cohesive marketing strategies that make your brand really identifiable.
Yeah, I love that. So having kind of one main piece of content and building so many things off of it sounds like it makes that a bit easier. And I love what you said about being really strategic with your ad money and like when you're going to utilize that, because you're right, kind of thinking about when other people are going to be turning up the volume almost on this, like increasing the noise thing, that makes so much sense. So I love that. Okay, so Kevin, what types of promotions and discounts as a consumer, I love both of these terms, work best during peak sales periods?
Okay, well, believe it or not, or you probably all believe it, we get this question all the time. We survey consumers all the time. We survey merchants, and by far, all of the surveys always indicate that free shipping is by far the most popular by consumers. Now, we all know it's not free shipping. Someone pays for that shipping, but psychologically, consumers see a price and a shipping cost, and they add it together, and that's psychologically what they see the price to be. And they like the concept of getting something free, or the price is what the price is, and you get it delivered for free. So free shipping is the promotion that we find that is most popular and is also most effective during any peak season and in general online. Now, there are strategies around free shipping that you can employ. One is obviously the cart minimums. Obviously, as a small business, you can calculate what makes sense to offer the shipping that you want to offer the customer with the size of a cart that makes sense for you to offer that free shipping. Consumers tend to be willing to get to that cart price point, especially if they like your product and your brand. So that's one of the things that are in your control as a retailer. And the other part of it is that you control the shipping option. So you may select a deferred shipping service that will get there 5 to 7 days. And the customer can make the decision if they want to pay for shipping. But that psychology of it's $20 plus $5 shipping, or I can get it for $24.99, it does come into play. Obviously, discounts are very important as well. All consumers these days are they're looking for discounts, or comparison shopping, and there's tools out there that make it so much easier for them to do that. So discounts of any sort tend to attract customers to make purchases, or at least to your site. So consider discount type of promotions as well. Sensi mentioned giveaways. We find we could sometimes call them surprise and delight, but surprise and delight promotions where if you make a purchase, you're going to get something for free. That tends to work well. And then if you do sell a product that has the potential for returns, free returns, at least as an offer during a peak period, is sometimes an effective promotion, because they're buying with confidence that if it's something that needs to be returned, they have the ability for a free return. So those are some of the promotions that we find very effective during a peak type season.
I like that. So it sounds like free shipping is the way to go, and then strategically do that so it makes sense for your business. And then also the free returns, it almost is like a sense of security for the shopper, that like no matter what, they can send it back and it can be no issue. So I really
we like to position it as something where it's assurance, and again it does cost, and it's an investment. However, you have the opportunity to have a positive engagement with the customer in a return situation. So that's how we set it up.
Yeah, I really like that. Awesome. Okay, Sensi, how have you balanced offering discounts while maintaining profit margins? Because those are really important.
That is always a challenge, Brittany. As a seasonal business, we really actually need to offload our product at the end of the season. And so there is a fine balance between offering too many discounts, but holding on to inventory too long. So looking at in Shopify, your selling cycles, and if you're sitting on inventory for more than a certain period of time, for us, it's 90 days, then we need to actually start implementing discounts to start moving the product. Initially, when I launched the brand, I was really nervous about doing any sort of discounting and didn't want to put our products on sale. But at a certain point, it's just sitting on your shelf and not moving. Then you really need to work on moving it. That being said, you don't want to come across as a discount brand. And that's why it goes back to mapping out all the sales that you want to do at the beginning of the year and making sure that you're not doing too many. And also not offering discounts to new customers, or promoting sales to brand new customers. So for instance, when someone comes to our website and they sign up for our email list, they're going to get a welcome series of emails that introduces them to the brand, helps them to get to know the product, hopefully turns into a conversion at the end of it and they buy something. If we're running a promotion at that time, they stay in this funnel over here of the welcome new customer list, and we don't send them the promotion emails, so that they're not just getting, oh, we're doing a 25% off sale. Initially, it's like warm them up to the brand, get them to buy items full price, and then later on, we can offer the sales to our recurring customers or people that are coming back to the brand. That being said, when it's major holiday sales times and you're competing with Black Friday, it is expectations of blanket discounts, as Kevin said. Let's move some product. People are looking for sales. They're not going to buy unless you do have promotions happening. So to wrap it up, I would also say actually knowing what your profit margin is a great place to start. To be honest, for a long time, I didn't know what our profit margin was. With swim, it can be complicated. There are tons of different notions that go into building a product. You have the bra cups, you have the fabric, you have all of the hang tags. Taking the time to actually know how much does it cost you to make something, the packaging, the shipping, everything that goes into that, taxes, and then what is your actual profit margin? So starting a spreadsheet is the number one. Know what your profit margin is so you can protect it.
Yes, getting really, really clear on like what does this fully cost you. And I like how you said having kind of like a debt, like 90 days. Okay, after 90 days, we need to figure out like how to move this product. That makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, so Kevin, what are the emerging trends in e-commerce marketing and customer communications that small businesses should be aware of?
So that's a great question, Brittany. I'm going to start with the technology that everyone is hearing about, obviously, and that's AI. So as it pertains to e-commerce marketing and customer communications, AI can be a great tool. And I'm hoping that a lot of the businesses listening today are already starting to use AI, but it could be a great tool for communication. So what can it be used for? So things like ChatGPT, which you probably heard of, aside from doing things like more efficient product descriptions, and by the way, you can have or tell the ChatGPT inputs to create the description based on your need, and you as the owner could modify it as needs to be done. But there are other things that it can do: email messages, different type of campaign creations. It could be used to do a lot of different types of functions. And again, you as a business owner can edit that and make sure that it's more effective. I have a quick story. There was a customer, one of our customers, that was talking about technology and ChatGPT and how he used it. He uses it as his AI assistant. It's basically his assistant. It does a lot of the different types of work that he needs to be done for rewriting things. And he actually created a campaign using ChatGPT, an email campaign with personalization, which is very critical. Personalization is one of the things that ChatGPT can help you with. And he launched the campaign, and then the next night he had, I think, $5,000 in sales. He said he had never seen that type of performance before, and he swears that it was because of the effectiveness of ChatGPT. So I'm just pointing out the obvious: AI. AI is the technology and tool that everyone should be looking at. Obviously, keeping in touch with social media. Social media continues to change and evolve. This includes things such as video and social being more shoppable. I believe Shopify is starting to introduce shoppable video links so that you can actually watch a video and actually shop it. It might be something Sensi's already looking at. There are different types of technologies that are emerging that customers can use to communicate, position your product, as well as sell. And then one last thing, we're seeing more of a shift to what we're calling generational marketing, where you're actually marketing differently to, let's say, the boomer generation, to Gen X, to Gen Z, to Gen Alpha, because there's such a difference between the groups from a technology perspective to how they communicate, what they like communicating about, that you can't have necessarily a blanket effective marketing campaign. I'm sure that there are businesses that can. It's just that we're starting to see that there's more value in being able to communicate to those generations differently.
Yeah, that is really interesting to think about those different audiences and making sure your messaging is tailored to it. And what a cool story about the AI being the assistant for that individual you're talking about and seeing that growth. Sounds like AI can really help with that efficiency as a business owner. Okay, we have one last like structured question for you both. And then just to everyone who is here, if you have questions for Kevin or Sensi, please drop them in the chat because we're going to move into our live Q&A right after this section. Okay, Sensi, I'd love to start with you. What is one piece of advice you would give to a small business owner to help them have a successful peak sales period?
Be consistent. It's really important to keep showing up. Oftentimes you think that people see what you put out there and you're like, oh, I don't want to keep bombarding my customer or keep talking about my product on social media. Hardly anyone sees what you're putting out there. And it's really important to keep putting yourself out there and put your product in front of people. I would also say to first, if you're first starting, to pick one channel and focus on that. I know we've talked about a lot of different platforms, and it is important to keep testing lots of different channels. But if it can be really overwhelming if you're trying to launch a Pinterest, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Google AdWords, text, email campaign all at once. So if you're first starting or even just a couple years in, choose one or two channels and say, okay, I'm going to focus on email. I'm going to get one email a week from now until the end of the year. And that's what I'm going to focus on, and keep showing up consistently rather than doing, oh, I'm going to do a month of emails and then that's going to taper off. Customers do want to hear from you. Believe in yourself. Your brand deserves to get this recognition, and keep going.
Oh, I love that. Yes, the keep going and consistency. It can be difficult, but yes, your customers want to hear from you, and being able to show up keeps you top of mind too, because I don't know, I have a short attention span, so I need to be reminded. Okay, Kevin, the same question for you. What's one piece of advice you would give a small business owner to help them have a successful peak sales period?
Well, I don't have one, so I'm going to be real quick. So first of all, it goes back to what Sensi's been saying and what I had said earlier. It's about planning and being prepared for that holiday. And again, I'm going to emphasize contingency planning. There are things that you need to at least look at and consider, because again, you have one shot every year. If that's your peak season, you want to be prepared for anything. And it could be as simple as, what happens if one of my items, my most popular items, is low on inventory? Do I have a contingency plan to raise the prices because I want to maximize it? Or is there something else I would position? So again, having contingency plans available. The other ones include leaning into the technologies that you use. So a lot of technologies that are out there, they have so many different capabilities, so many functions that a lot of small businesses don't even know are available to them, including built-in AI tools. Look into them, lean into them, use them. They're your technologies for a reason. They want to help you, and definitely take advantage of that. And then lastly, don't forget about the post-purchase experience. It's extremely important to establish your brand, the relationship with your customers, and just overall just trying to generate repeat business.
Love it. Love it. There's so many good pieces of advice in this. And if you are taking notes or trying to get everything down, don't worry. We're recording it all so that it'll be in your inbox tomorrow. But we've had a couple of really good questions from the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right into those. So the first question is for Sensi. How do I get people to see my business when, as the owner, I have a strong preference to remain behind the scenes? I'm introverted and shy, and I've only started putting myself on social media out of necessity.
That's such a good question. I would say you want to focus on serving. You want to focus on your audience. You've created this brand perhaps because you want freedom and there is a product that you saw that needed to be made. But I would invite you to think about your customer and think about what they need, and really take yourself out of it. This brand is actually not about you. It's about the people that you are serving. And when you can change that lens and say, okay, it doesn't matter if I fall flat on my face. It doesn't matter if I look stupid, because it is important that I show up for my customers, then everything kind of shifts. So for instance, with my swimwear company, I too was initially really nervous to put myself out there. And when people would tell me that my swimwear was bad, like we would get some customer complaints or something, I would take it to mean that I was bad, and I would have my ego all wrapped up in the result. And I made it all about me. I'm like, oh, people are telling me this swimsuit's bad. I should just stop. Why am I even doing this? You're going to get criticism no matter what. But then I said, okay, wait, why am I actually doing this business? I want to empower women in water sports. That's something that I believe in with my whole heart. That's something that I feel so strongly about, that it is imperative that I keep showing up, because the work that I'm doing is important for other people. And so this product, it's not about me. It's about the people that I'm serving. And so when you can make that switch, you don't have to be in front of the camera. You can remain behind the scenes, but I would invite you just to think about how can I focus on serving my customer, take myself out of the equation completely, and that will open you up to a lot more unique marketing ideas and unique opportunities to actually connect with your customer.
I love that. That like reframe allows you to kind of shift your mindset and maybe get out of the nerves of it all. Okay, this next question is I'm going to kick it to Kevin. So we talked a lot about the importance of understanding who you're marketing to. So what recommendations do you have for creating promotions if you have two distinct audiences who have different motivators? So this individual says she promotes her original artwork to gallerists and commercial collectors, but also needs to tell consumers about things like greeting cards, journals, and activewear. So they're kind of promoting to two different audiences. What do you have? What suggestions do you have for doing that?
Well, I would say that obviously you have to treat each of these customer types differently, and you have to have the right type of messaging that connects and appeals to each of them. So I would make sure that you have the different types of campaigns established with the right type of messaging. Make sure you have the right value proposition or what will appeal to those two distinct audiences, and then make sure that you understand how best to reach them. So if they're typically found or best communicated through certain channels, make sure you understand how you best can communicate to them with that type of message. And again, if they're very distinct, but you're still trying to sell them, make sure that you understand what types of, I guess, offers would appeal to them. Now, we also suggest doing surveys to those audiences, because the best way to understand those distinct audiences is to ask them ask them about what appeals to them, ask them about your product, your brand, how they see your brand. A lot of times that's how we gather that information so that we can develop the proper campaigns for each of those groups.
Yeah, I love that. Getting it directly from those consumers, where you can find them and how they view your brand. Okay, Sensi, next question is for you. Can you share any insights or best practices or strategies around utilizing pre-orders?
Yeah, we've actually utilized pre-orders quite a bit when we were nervous about launching a new product or actually just needed money in the bank. We needed cash flow. And we're like, okay, we're going to make this, but we're going to do it as a promotion, a pre-order. It fits on our calendar. We don't have anything else happening. So what we've done is just create a product in Shopify, label it. This is the pre-order product. It will ship estimated this date. And then we sell it and we keep track of those sales in a spreadsheet. And then when the product is ready, we ship it out. We do have minimums. If you're making a product, guarantee you're going to have some sort of minimums with your factory. So you could also put a contingency in there. That would be something akin to what Kickstarter does, which is if you don't meet this threshold, you don't necessarily make the product, and then you can refund the customer's money. I would say that is a little bit more challenging. I would encourage you to have plans to actually make the product if you're going to do it as a pre-order. But pre-orders are a great way to actually test. For us, we introduce new styles. And so if the pre-order is not super successful, that gives us a lot of insight into, wait, do we actually need to make this product? We're not all about just making product for product's sake. We really want to make things that connect with the customer and that people actually need. But it can be really easy and it can be a really great strategy. Doing a whole promo, but just making sure that you say, this is a pre-order product. The estimated ship date is this, and give yourself like 2 weeks, if not a month of buffer on that ship date. You rather, the old adage, under promise, over deliver. You want to give yourself that time so that if it doesn't ship on time, you're not going to be super stressed.
You have like the extra built-in buffer.
Yes, 100% do that.
And you mentioned the contingency is like, if we don't sell X amount, then like how would you word that language?
Yeah, I would just say that if we don't meet our order minimums, we will not be producing this product. And talking about that in your social media and getting people on board, saying, hey, we're launching this pre-order. We're really excited about this product. These are all the benefits with it. And heads up, we're going to be running this for 2 weeks. if we don't meet our minimums, unfortunately, we won't be producing it. And you actually don't even need to say that in the first initial. But perhaps if you're getting towards the end and you're saying, we still need 50 more orders to meet this minimum, then using that as an opportunity to communicate. But I would always come about it from a positive standpoint rather than we haven't met our minimums yet, please support us. But hey, this is an opportunity for you to put your money where your mouth is with a small brand and really support a small brand. So taking things and spinning them in a way that makes it so that people want to vote for you with their dollar.
Yeah, I love that. That makes so much sense and would definitely get me excited if there's a small business I love and I love the product. It'd be my way of showing like, hey, I want more of this. Okay, this next question, I'm going to kick it to both of you, but I'll start with Kevin. So we've talked a lot about the post-purchase experience and how we shouldn't forget about that. One piece of that is getting reviews and testimonials for your product or service. So from your experience, what do you think the best way to solicit reviews or testimonials from customers would be?
Well, I can base it on talking to various businesses. Obviously, there are survey and experience tools out there that you can collect that post-purchase, and it is important. I mean, post-purchase experience, reviews of your product, all that goes into the purchasing decision process. And so having that available is very valuable and important. So I would, again, I would say check out the different technologies that you have available, or you can do the old-fashioned way and try to get some survey data out there to get that experience information back to you. I would also make sure that you pay attention to your customer service channels and make sure you get information from that. It may not be a review, but it is valuable information that you're basically mining from real feedback that you can apply to your business. Sensi probably has a lot more ideas on that area.
Yeah.
I was just going to add that if you speak to your customer in person, obviously we're talking about e-commerce and peak sales, but perhaps you do pop-ups or trunk shows, or you sell things in person. It can be really powerful to ask customers, hey, can you give me a review? Like right there when they buy the product from you, because that in-person ask will go a long way. We definitely have emails running that ask people for post-purchase reviews. I would also say asking friends and your best customers, kind of same thing, high touch point. There's a really cool tool called Loom, LOOM.com, which allows you to screen record and you can have your face on there as well. I would say use that tool and send some of your best customers a little personalized video where it's you talking to the camera and you're saying, hey, I'm looking for reviews. Would you take 2 minutes and fill out this link and make sure it's linked right to the space where you want them to review it. Make it easy for them. It can be really effective to actually say, this will take 2 minutes of your time, putting in that specific time period, because people will be like, oh, this is going to take 2 minutes, as opposed to just a blanket, would you fill out this review? That's a little bit of a hack.
Yeah, I like that. Just like, oh, it's only going to take a minute or 60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 2 questions. Those things make it really easy, I think, for me to be like, okay, I can answer 2 questions. Okay, so this question is, I'm going to kick it to Sensi. So it's asking about working with influencers, because you mentioned you've been on both sides of that coin. So how can you effectively work with influencers as a small business who maybe has a smaller following? What's the best way to get started in that?
Yeah, that's a really great question because that can feel intimidating. You can look for brands that have smaller followings. You can also look for brands that have bigger followings. And once again, having that connected audience, interacting with those brands and really getting to know them on social media, commenting, sending them voice messages and saying, hey, I'm another small business founder. I love your product. Here's why. That authentic outreach, people want to get the exposure to other customers, whether or not you have a small following or not. And so if you have a cool product that resonates with another brand that has a cool product, I would just encourage you to do outreach. There's definitely no minimum. Obviously, it's easier if you have a bigger following, but in order to grow that, you have to start somewhere, and everyone knows that. And I worked with because I do mentoring as well. I've worked with clients and they have only a couple thousand followers, and they've done collabs with 10, 20, 30, even a 50,000 account. So get to know the brand, comment on their profile, interact with them, send them voice messages and say, hey, I just want to do a collab. Would you be interested? Offer to send a product if that's something easy that you can afford and you can send it. Introduce them to you, to your brand, and then just start making that connection.
I love it. So just basically just ask,
Yeah, yeah, just that. Yeah.
yeah, and just see, because you never know. Okay,
Mhm.
this next question, definitely something we don't want to deal with, but sometimes happens. The holiday season can get really hectic, and sometimes things go wrong, whether it's our fault or not. Maybe shippings are delayed or products are lost. So I'm going to kick it to Kevin and then to Sensi. How do you recommend handling communications, especially when it comes to maybe a negative customer service experience?
Well, this goes back to what I was trying to talk about earlier, which is about being prepared for the unexpected, the curveballs, the issues that are going to occur. Um, shipping does and weather issues do occur. So, since you said this earlier, being authentic, being upfront, making sure that the customer has realistic expectations of what's happened. It's better to be upfront with your customers than to sort of hide the issue or don't tell them. Because the most frustrating thing, especially during the holiday when there is a definitive time period where deliveries and that product needs to arrive, is the worst experience possible, one that may jeopardize them ever shopping with you again. So communicate via the channels that you know that you can access them to with, and just being very upfront and transparent with what the situation is. Customers are more willing to forgive you when they are being authentically communicated to versus having a vague answer. So I would just say be upfront and proactively communicate where you can.
Absolutely. And Sensi, anything to add to that?
I would just say I love that answer that Kevin put. I would also say just don't take it personally. Once again, it's not about you. You can choose to see feedback as a way to help you get better. And so and you can also choose to ignore it. If it's not helpful feedback and you don't agree with it, you don't have to listen to everybody on the internet. Only a certain amount of people are actually influential. You can listen to fewer people if you choose. So I would say don't take it personally. Think about whether that feedback is helpful for you and gets you closer to the goal. And then choose to see it as something that might be an idea to incorporate. But I love what Kevin said, which is to own up and be communicative. That's the best way to really connect with your customer.
Yes. Having that contingency plan, being authentic, and we're knocking on wood that nobody has to deal with that this season. But we'll be prepared either way. All right. I really want to thank Kevin and Sensi for answering all of the questions in the chat and also sharing all of their expertise when it comes for planning for these peak sales times. I want to thank all of the entrepreneurs who took time out of their very busy schedule to be here to ask really engaging questions. And we hope you all feel more prepared to tackle your marketing and communications this upcoming season. Until next time, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Sensi. And thank you, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.